to We Watch Bad Films, the podcast where we watch bad films so you don't have to. And today is our Halloween spectacular. Please go find us some more spooky goings on Twitter at We Watch Bad Films. On Instagram, same again, We Watch Bad Films. And just like all the cool kids, we have an email address, wewatchbadfilms@gmail.com. I'm Gary. With me today is Jay.
Hello.
Very scary, or you just haven't put the central heating on yet. How are you, Jay?
I'm very well, Gruesome Gary. How are you?
Gruesome Gary and Juvenile Jay? That's not good enough. Sounds like you belong in a prison. Jabberwocky Jay. How's that? That's a bit better, isn't it?
It
very
is.
Halloween.
Yes.
Jay, on this Halloween special, what have you been watching lately?
I really enjoyed watching A Field in England by Ben Wheatley. Have you heard of it, Gary?
Ben Wheatley, who does a number of these small-scale but terrifying, thrillery, horror-y films. I believe Reece Shearsmith is in this one.
Yeah, I didn't actually know many of the cast, and there aren't many casts. It's basically 5 people, and it's basically like a play. It's that stripped back, but yeah, you're totally right. Ben Wheatley, he does a lot of these very, very minor, almost no budget films, but I watched it on Blu-ray. As you may know, that I've mentioned before, I love Blu-ray and I love extras, and the extras on the Blu-ray were amazing. It tells you basically how he makes the film. It's like going to film school, and he comes up with story ideas that he knows he can do within a certain budget, and he knows he can make look interesting, so that it's not just a play on film.
Yes.
And he makes sure it's set in one place, so they don't have to travel around. And it's brilliant how he does that right from the first page. He knows he's going to make a really cheap film, but still very interesting film. Have you seen the film, Gary?
No, I've not seen any Ben Wheatleys. I'm still on the fence about seeing them. I hear descriptions and I think this sounds kind of interesting, and then I hear other opinions and I think, yeah, I probably wouldn't get along with them. So I remain open-minded, so I will watch one at one point.
You definitely hit the nail on the head there. I can feel that he's not an easy filmmaker to get into. And I think you'd probably either like it or you really wouldn't. And I've not seen all of his films. I saw his first one called Down Terrace, mainly because I was living on Down Terrace in Brighton at the time. I thought, gotta see this. It's very good. It's flawed. It's his debut, but there's something in it. It's got Julia Deakin in it, actually, from Space.
Yes.
But he's actually from Billericay in Essex, which is near from where we are.
I did not know that.
Yes, he lives in Brighton, but he's from Billericay. So I'm intrigued about someone from our local area who is a rather successful, low-budget, interesting filmmaker.
Oh, he's completely cult following, you know. He's the kind of guy that will get like a 10-disc box release set in a few years' time.
But A Field in England is basically about 5 characters, and it's, funnily enough, set in a field in England. And it's set literally on the edge of a battlefield during the English Civil War. And 4 of these characters, for various reasons, and they're all from different backgrounds, and I think even from different sides in the war, have tried to escape the battlefield, and they bump into each other and they sort of form a little ragtag group trying to escape the actual battle. They meet up with a 5th character who is a mysterious, he's kind of like an alchemist, potion maker, and he introduces he's like the antagonist. And what is the thing that flips the story on its head is they sit down to have a meal, and in this meal they cook some mushrooms, and the inference is that these mushrooms basically have psychedelic properties, and it gives the film an excuse to go from quite a mundane story to quite a surreal, dreamlike, nightmarish story. I would say it is also flawed, and I can see why people wouldn't like it, but I found it really interesting and really intriguing, and I think it's really, really well directed. There's some really great shots in it. It's really well filmed. The cinematography is really great, and I'm interested in Ben Wheatley and watching some of his other films. I'm interested in him as a filmmaker, and would recommend people checking it out. And I also thought, as I was watching it, this would be great as a double bill. And if I was doing a double bill, Gary, which I suppose I can do now because I'm just talking about it, I
Yep.
would show A Field in England by Ben Wheatley, and then following that, I would show The Witch from 2015 by Robert Eggers. Have you seen that?
No, it's on my list. I've not got around to it.
Robert Eggers, probably most famous for doing The Lighthouse recently, starring Robert Pattinson.
We've mentioned it several times on the pod.
Yeah. And The Witch is set at almost exactly the same time period, which is basically the English Civil War, but set on the east coast of what is to become the United States. And it's about a puritanical family who it's suggested were part of a religious community on the east coast, and for whatever reason they're shunted out and they have to live on their own on the edge of a forest. And there's subtle connections between A Field in England and The Witch, and the main connection is they also have mushrooms or vegetation which have psychedelic properties. And that's all I'm going to say. But The Witch and A Field in England, that would be my double bill if people wanted to watch two really interesting connected films.
But for this week, Jay, what horrors have you got lying in store for us? And they can either be horrors of the horror movie genre or just flat out stinkers to make us think we've wasted our lives.
Or both. I'm never really sure what constitutes a horror film or a Halloween-based horror film, quite frankly.
Yes, because a Halloween film has to capture a vibe, doesn't it? A bit spooky, a bit funny.
Yes. Now, I suppose these days a Halloween film is just a scary film, something that scares you. And I've gone for that. Although, really, we probably should be watching a supernaturally kind of ghostly kind of film. But we're not doing that, Gary. We're watching serial killer, slash 'em up kind of film. And what we're going to be watching is Sleepaway Camp from 1983.
Sleepaway Camp rings a bell, but I can't quite put my finger on it. Now, the fact that it's got the word camp in it and it's from 1983 does not imply to me that it's a carry-on film.
Matron, take them away!
But it does imply to me that it is born of the Friday the 13th genre.
I've never watched any Friday the 13th films.
I've got the feeling you admitted this on the pod last year, last Halloween.
I'm sorry, the whole year I've not watched one.
What have you been doing? And we've had a lockdown, you know. I played the game of Friday the 13th about 4 years ago, and I hadn't seen any of them, so I then decided to watch them all in about a month. And they are a roller coaster of quality, I tell you.
Well, I mean, I was very close to choosing one of them for this episode. Either number 3 or Jason X. On my list of schlock.
Okay, well that'd be good. I mean, 3 is the 3 is for 3D, so you really feel that in Friday the 13th 3. There's lots of stuff being poked at the screen, and in the classic 3D novelty gimmick way. And Jason X is the whole thing goes into space and goes absolutely bonkers, and they completely redesign Jason as well, not for the better. But, you know, I don't know how you're going to keep up with the plot if you haven't watched the first 9.
I was watching a review of the most recent Halloween film, Halloween Kills, I think it's called. And
yes, I've got huge gaps in the Halloween series. I can't even remember which ones I've seen now.
Yeah, but I think it's one of these series that has gaps in its own series. Because I think the first sequel is a continuation of the first film. Then the third film is a completely unrelated film.
Yes, my cousin let me watch that. That was the first one I'd seen, and it wasn't anything like I was expecting, because it's about a bunch of masks, isn't it, that can take over kids or something?
I think so. And then there's a million sequels to Halloween. Then there's like a timeline Halloween H2O, when that came out 20 years after the original, which was now 20 years ago, they brought out a new Halloween film in 2018, which completely ignores all of the other films apart from the first one. It's going into Star Trek territory where there's 3 million different timelines. And I think Halloween Kills follows on from the 2018 one and ignores all the other sequels. Confusing. But I haven't seen any of those either, apart from Halloween.
I'm so glad you brought it up. A whole bunch of films we've not seen. Very good. Very good. Let's review those. But in the meantime, we need to review Sleepaway Camp. Why don't you good people out there, don't get scared, don't have nightmares, go and listen to the trailer for Sleepaway Camp, which I'm sure is an absolute riot, and then we'll come back and review the film.
Dear Mom and Dad, I've been at a sleepaway camp for almost 3 weeks, and I'm getting very scared.
Welcome to Sleepaway Camp. Someone is watching you.
Hey, Mama, reload!
Someone is waiting for you. Someone wants to scare you to death.
Turn the wheel! Oh my God!
Sleepaway Camp. You won't be coming home.
So, Jay, we've just watched Sleepaway Camp. And a quick synopsis for those not down and dirty. This will contain spoilers, and this is one of those films where it has a significant spoiler in it, which I was not familiar with. Yeah, so just bear in mind, if you have any intention of watching Sleepaway Camp, or you think anything might be of interest to you, go and watch it. It's an hour and 20, so easy done. Here we go. So the film opens with a dad and his 2 children. There's a terrible speedboat accident. Some of the people in that family die. Fast forward a few years, the girl that survived the attack and her cousin are sent to Camp Arawak by Martha. As you can predict, there's some unsavory characters at this summer camp. This is the thing I should mention. It's a proper summer camp with a bunch of kids go in America. You know, have fun and outdoor activities. The sort of things we dream about from windy and rainy England. That you can go out to camp over the summer holidays and have a great old time, or get bullied or murdered. I'm not sure which it is. These, essentially throughout the film, stuff happens to Angela, who starts the film mute, and she's extremely introverted and shy. She becomes ridiculed and bullied, and each person that bullies her, a short while later, meets a sticky end, either very seriously injured or dead, including a cook, one of the camp attendees, and they get into fights. She gets water bombed, and again, things happen. And I'm sure we're going to go through all these mysterious deaths in our review. This escalates with, the guy who owns the camp getting killed. And the film ends, shockingly, with, actually, I'm going to stop there, and we're going to treat that as a whole separate section to deal with by itself, I think.
It was all a dream.
It wasn't all a dream. There's the spoiler. It was not a dream. Jay, top of the shop, where do we start with this film?
A load of actors who sound like they've just come from the Bronx. Little children arguing in the water. Sound like they've. Hey, I'm from Mulberry Street in New York City. In the water, playing around. I mean, it's about 10 minutes of these really New Yorkian child actors playing around in the water. And it sounded like little Edie from Great Gardens. Have you ever seen Great Gardens, Gary?
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I hadn't even noticed the accents, and now you mention it, it was like that.
Oh, it's like it feels like there should be bagels flying everywhere. It feels like there should be taxi cabs. Hey, I'm walking here. It's obviously filmed in New York State somewhere. It felt a bit like a TV movie as well when it started. Did you feel like that? I felt like
Oh
it had
there's
the
lots of reasons for it feeling like a TV movie.
yeah,
I mean,
the music.
first of all, the credits
Yes.
just felt very TV-esque. You are right, the music, which I think needs its whole other conversation. And then thirdly, it had ad breaks. It didn't have ad breaks, I should add, but bits where it faded to black, where you'd put the ad in. It did that a couple of times. It's like, are we supposed to insert an ad break there?
A bit like an episode of Scooby-Doo or something.
Yeah. By the way, I should add, it was filmed in Glens Falls, New York. Glens Falls, the home of which wrestler, Jay?
Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Hacksaw Jim Duggan. It always comes back to wrestlers. And while we're on 80s wrestlers, who else was in this film?
All of the 80s wrestlers. It was
No.
mullet and muscles all over the place. But you said to me, look out for Tito Santana, and there he appeared.
Tito Santana, definitely. And in fact, he gets the line of the film, literally the last line of the film. So yeah, well done, Tito. Arriba. Let's talk about the music then, as I've picked it up already. I mean, yeah, the music is blatant. I think is the word I want to use. So the music, they've definitely been listening to Harry Manfredini's work for Friday the 13th.
Okay. Yeah, it has a lot of those kinds of stings, doesn't it? Lots of those kind of like, you're watching a horror film kind of music.
And that's really at odds with some of the music towards the end, isn't it?
Yes. So we're talking about the score, the orchestral score, but actually it has some songs in it as well, which we'll come to in a minute. But the orchestral score, actually, I've wrote down, it's actually quite good, right? Yeah, I think the music is quite competent. It's kind of like a little bit of a rip-off of John Williams-y sort of Jaws-y type feel.
Yes.
But it's also a little bit sort of 80s TV show, a little bit A-Team, you know, that sort of like incidental music. That's why it felt like a TV film. But also, it also does a bit of heavy lifting when it doesn't really need to. There's a few scenes when like a couple of, it's mainly teenagers in this film. There's a couple scenes where like one of the boys kisses a girl, does a little peck on the cheek, but the music does a little crescendo, a scary crescendo, and then he does it again, and then the scary crescendo happens again.
I hope you're not mad I did that.
I'm not mad. I better go in.
Can I have another one? You know, another goodnight kiss.
I have to go now.
And you just think, it's just two little teenagers doing a little peck on the cheek. You really
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because they kiss and the music goes boing, and then they kiss again and the music goes boing. Very odd.
Yeah,
Very odd.
A little bit of that heavy lifting that composers often have to do. The film's not really chugging along the way that it wants to, and the composer's like, right, well, you've got to fix this because we've done the best that we can. Now it's up to you, Mr. Composer. It reminds me of,
to fill in the blanks.
It reminds me of I can't remember which James Cameron film it was. Maybe Aliens, where James Horner was literally given about 6 weeks to write and finish the score to Aliens, and they hadn't even finished filming.
So there's some strange delivery by some of the acting talent, and for a film packed with loads of kids and presumably first-time actors, it's not them.
No, there's like I said, there's a mixed bag of acting in this. One of whom is the father of Darth Vader. And that's what Anakin Skywalker's dad looks like.
Not really. No, I think you've got the wrong end of the stick there.
Okay. It was amazing to hear. Shall we explain what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So Robert Earl Jones is in this film, and he's unmistakably Robert Earl Jones. I mean, I loved him in The Sting, one of my favourite films of all time.
Of course. Yes, that's where I've seen him.
And he has the same amount of screen time as The Sting. Not a lot, but it leaves an impression. And actually, I don't remember what happens to the character in the end. I think he does the bit at the beginning, and I don't see him for the rest.
No. So we explain what happens. So he works in the kitchen of this grimy, disgusting kitchen with flies all around. And I mean real flies. I mean, you can see in the background there are flies everywhere. It's disgusting. In fact, I would say this whole camp is grotty and disgusting. The kitchen is gross, and the chef is one of the worst characters, isn't he? Really, he's
yes, but to be fair, he's played that way and portrayed that way, and gets his comeuppance quite rightly. And jumping ahead of ourselves here, so this chef sees this horrible, greasy, beardy chef sees these young kids arriving at camp for the first week, and he goes,
Look at all that young, fresh chicken.
which is nice.
ain't such thing as too young. Oh, rotten.
Yeah, and so he sees them coming in, and heroine Angela, and protagonist, let's say. He sees them coming, takes her into the kitchen storeroom, and he's about to expose himself and do all horrible things when he's interrupted. So later on, he meets a grisly end by being essentially a big vat of boiling water is tipped on top of him by who we don't know. This is the whole mystery of the film. But then cut to a pretty amazing prosthetic shot, right?
Yeah, I would go so far as to say all of the special effects, the prosthetics, and the model work is really good in this film.
Yeah, so essentially his face is blistering and bubbling, and the camera stays on him for a long time. It's not a flash and cut away. It's on him for like 30 seconds.
And he does not stop screaming.
No.
And this is all because he's cooking maize, corn on the cob, in the largest pan I've ever seen. And I don't mean wide, fat pan. I'm talking about, it looks about 6 foot tall. The tallest, weirdest shaped pan, which would literally have taken him about 2 days to boil because there's so much water in it. So it's about the size of a small person, and he climbs on top, and then he sort of grabs on. The stool is taken away from him, and it all pours on him. But he screams and screams and screams, and then the doctor comes, and then they cut to him being bandaged and taken away on a stretcher, and he's still screaming. and the worst acting is then of the doctor.
I'm afraid I don't carry a sedative strong enough to mask the kind of agony he's in right now. Every nerve in his body must feel like it's on fire.
What's the prognosis, Doc?
Well, he's badly burned all over.
But the guy is still screaming behind him as he's taken away. So how long does it take to bandage someone from head to toe? He was screaming for about, I don't know, half an hour. But then he was the chef, and so Darth Vader's dad gets given the job of the chef, and then we never see him again.
Yep. Yeah, but I thought that was right. I was trying to remember, and I thought, no, he didn't appear again.
No. That's the end. And then we cut to the Arseface game.
There's a whole couple of sequences where a kid called Mozart, if you want your kid to get bullied, that's how you do it. Certainly watching this Mozart kid get pranked and bullied, I understand he was actually pranked and bullied on set as well. The poor kid. I want to talk about Desiree Gould, who plays Aunt Martha.
Oh my God, I completely forgot about Aunt Martha.
Yeah, well, she says lines like she's on stage doing the narration.
She's in another film. She's in a completely different film. Oh, I cannot believe I forgot about Aunt Martha. When she came onto the screen, first of all, it cuts to her house, and the wallpaper is like something out of a psychedelic nightmare. And then she walks down the stairs, and I wrote down outrageous wallpaper, cardigan, bow tie, double beret combo. And I also wrote down, is the mother deaf? She's actually the auntie. I didn't realise.
Yeah, she comes across like the mother at the beginning. Every line she says, she is shouting. The kids are right in front of her. She's shouting her lines.
Hurry, sweeties! We don't want to be late for the boss! Goodness, no. No, that wouldn't do at all.
You think, oh, what is going on with this character? And I was right to think so.
She just says things like she's just speaking her mind out loud to the camera. It's so odd. It's so odd. Oh, you're going to enjoy living with us so much. Yes, I know you are. Oh, as a welcome home present, I bought you such wonderful new clothes.
Yeah, she's like something out of another film. It's absolutely insane. And she shouts. And yeah. I didn't really understand what was happening there. And then she's only in it for a couple of minutes, and then we go back to the normal film. So I thought, well, okay, maybe that's just a blip. But then she does reappear at the end, and we understand more.
Yes, but also went to the same school of delivery is Mel, who runs the camp. An old guy.
Yeah, walnut face.
Yeah, exactly. Some screwed up face old man, constantly chomping a cigar. This was actually the actor Mike Kellin, his last role. Sadly, he became ill on set, hid it all, and passed away just after filming. Has an absolute raft of credits.
Of lung cancer, and I noted in the kitchen he continually is smoking cigars.
Yep, it doesn't seem like a good move.
Nope. He's been in loads of famous films.
In this, he again, he's all right during most of the film. Then at the end, he becomes a Basil exposition. You know, he just starts to dump plot. He finds one of the girls that he likes has died. They'd been killed, you know, and he just explains it.
He did this to get back at me. I had him, Rick. I had him. I let him go. Forgive me, please forgive me. I'll stop him. Gotta stop him. He won't get away, Rick. He'll never get away from me again.
Oh my God, I can't believe this has happened. Oh, don't worry, it was bound to be him. I'll go find him and I'll make it all right. He just says it all out loud.
Yeah, there's this really weird monologue. He's considering he's actually quite an esteemed actor. He is terrible, right?
Yeah, but he's fine up to that point. It's just this last bit. He just suddenly does. He must have seen early rushes of the Aunt Martha character and thought, this is a way to do acting.
Aunt Martha.
Now, you did mention earlier that the effects and prosthetics are very good, and by the whole they are. Though one of the children is killed by, depends how pedantic you want to be, either a hornet's, wasp, or bee's nest. It looked like a hornet's nest, but there were bees surrounding the corpse. That kid is definitely just covered in, or the dummy or prosthetic, whatever they use, is just covered in jam. There's no hiding that.
I'm pretty sure I can see some raspberries.
Yes. Spot on.
Can I mention I don't really know how to say this, but the fashions and the deep homoerotic weirdness going on throughout the whole...
there's a lot of early 1980s fashion going on. And in particular, what item of clothing do we see over and over again?
We see the skimpiest shorts on men that I've ever seen. And your mate Tito Santana, who has the biggest muscles and tits,
and the rest of it. Yeah,
there's a few scenes where
I could tell he was circumcised.
Oh God, there's a few scenes where you can see everything. The outline. His shorts are so tight, and he's in a canteen full of children. Basically, it's just so weird. He's talking to these kids, and all I can see are his shorts and the outline of that. And but that goes out throughout the whole film. Loads of high-waisted denim shorts with belts, loads of t-shirts tucked into said shorts. And basically all the men look deeply homoerotic. There's the gay fons. Do you remember the gay fons going?
Mm-hmm.
He appears and he's basically wearing one of those. I don't remember anyone actually wearing this in the 80s, but they seem to always do that on 80s American films, where He's wearing a half-cut T-shirt, so he has the top half of the T-shirt, but the bottom half there is nothing. You can just see his hairy stomach. It just looks so wrong, and he's just like the fonts basically. Blue Oyster Cult T-shirt I saw.
Nice.
And the majority of this happens during a baseball game.
You seemed quite obsessed with the baseball game, if I'm honest.
Well, okay, we're British, Gary. Okay, right? Yeah. I know what baseball is. I know what baseball is. You know what baseball is. We've seen it happen, but I don't understand baseball. And in this film, we get about 15 minutes of basically a full baseball game. You think, okay, they're playing baseball. Yeah, okay, great. It's going to cut any minute. It'll cut to something else. No, it doesn't. It fades out and it comes back into the baseball game. Oh, surely it'll cut now. No, we're watching the full baseball game here, guys. It's like, what? They must have had a down day or something where they just sort of thought, yeah, I haven't really got much planned for this day. Shall we just play baseball, see what we get? And yeah, there's a lot of baseball.
I think you're over-egging it slightly, but of all the crimes this film commits, I think we're talking about camp things. There's that cop with the stick-on moustache at the end.
Well, he starts off with a normal moustache. I say normal. It looks like
a regular Tom Selleck, yeah.
But then he reappears right at the end with one of the worst fake moustaches I have. I mean, it looks like something that's fallen out of a Christmas cracker.
Well, I was brought to mind of the episode of Blackadder Goes Forth, where Baldrick masquerades as Charlie Chaplin by balancing a slug on his lip.
Sir, there's a visitor to see you.
Good Lord, Mr. Chaplin. This is indeed an honour. Why, it calls for some sort of celebration. Baldrick! It's me, sir! I know.
Do you know what? It'd be great as a combo with the wig from Samurai Cop. That
yes,
would be something. Yeah, terrible fake moustache. Yeah, loads of people die in this film, Gary, and only one police officer ever appears. Am I right there?
That feels right, which is quite unusual for films this time. Usually a whole phalanx of police turn up, mostly incompetent.
Quite unusual in the real world, is right. If multiple people have died, you normally get more than one police officer who appears on the scene.
Do you know what? I hadn't thought of that. I hadn't thought of the fact that nobody rings these murders in.
No, because your mate, old man Mel, initially says, no, nobody needs to know about these deaths, because he's worried.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he's worried that he won't be able to make money out of the camp, isn't he?
It's a bit like the mayor in Jaws, isn't it? Where he's trying to say,
yes, definitely.
It's an accident. Nobody needs to know about it. It's not actually because my camp has got a killer in it. But then more and more people die. But still nobody actually does anything normal, like ringing for the police. And then eventually you just get this one police officer who appears and does absolutely nothing, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So we're heading to the end of the film here. I basically wrote in the word "what" in capital letters
because I could see the end of the film approaching, and I thought we haven't got enough film left. Like we haven't identified the killer, and then obviously once you identify the killer or whatever's going on, you then have to resolve that, right? You have to catch them or kill them, and then have a little epilogue of how everyone's okay now, or are they? And the end of the film is coming towards me, barreling, and I'm thinking, we're not going to wrap this up at all.
We've got 5 minutes left. What's going to happen?
We are angling towards the end of the film, and then we get this flashback scene. And then we get the return of Aunt Martha, who talks about the fact that they didn't want another boy, so they raised Peter, the surviving boy, as a girl, We then cut back to the previously mute, introverted Angela, who is pulling a strange face. Don't jump in there. It pans back to the face, and that person is completely nude and is most definitely a boy. And Tito Santana says,
God, she's a boy.
My God, she's a boy. We flash back to that Angela's face, and the film ends. We don't really get resolution. It's a mad way to finish a film, but oh my God, what a jaw dropper! And it's not really the she's a boy revelation. It's more the fact that it's just so oblique. It just stops right there.
This is one of the weirdest endings to a film that I've seen in quite a while, and we've seen some weird crap.
Oh yes.
And I actually knew that there was a scene at the end. Everyone was talking about it when I was researching. Luckily I didn't know what it was. I will say this, Gary, I don't know about you, but all the way through the film I thought to myself, well, obviously Angela's the killer, the little girl. Obviously,
well, it's either her or it's the boy, isn't it, that she's with? It's one of them. Or my other thought was, well, maybe the dad has come back to life in some way, some weird zombie thing.
Basically, it was like, for me, it was so obvious that it was basically the girl, the main antagonist of the film, and it was like, well, so how are they gonna make it not that, or how are they gonna make that a surprise? And boy, do they! Boy, do they! It's not a surprise that she's the killer. It's not necessarily even the surprise of the fact that she is actually a boy. It's the way it is done. The shot,
100%.
The shot of her standing there with her face aghast and she's like growling like a dog, and she's I think she's just ripped someone's head off, right? And she's
cut off the other guy's head,
with a ghoulies hanging there for everyone to see, and it is mental. It is completely a mad, crazy shot, and then that's the end of the film. That's it.
Yeah.
No resolution.
I mean, if you don't want, we've just ruined the film for you, but if you want to see the face and you don't know the face, Google Sleepaway Camp Angela face, and it is this demonic, kind of laughing, weird face. I don't even know what's causing the face, like in the context of the film, but she's kind of looking sideways. She's got her mouth wide open, like she's laughing like mad, but it's frozen like that, and it's so odd.
It's at both at the same time hilarious and spine-chillingly weird.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've had a quick look, and the actress who played her, Felissa Rose, is still doing, monster movies and scary movies, and she's still dining out on this Angela face, this cult classic, big time, and bless her for it, because she's properly owned it. Some actresses want to be serious and taken seriously after this, but she's gone, no, this is who I am. So therefore she pops up doing this face all the time. You can find her at Comic-Cons doing the face with other people having their photo taken with her while they do the face. No, full power to her for embodying and embracing what brought her to the dance.
Yeah, it's pretty iconic.
Well, I say iconic. It wouldn't have been iconic to me a couple of hours ago, but it's iconic to me now. And it's clearly, as I look around, a cult classic. And this image is a cult classic too.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, same here. I didn't know, but I knew there was something at the end, like I said, and I did say we can't research this film or read anything about it beforehand. We have to just go in basically blind. I dipped my toe in, but that's all I did, and I'm glad that it wasn't spoiled for me, which we're doing for you, dear listeners. But we did warn you, so I'm afraid that's all new.
One thing I want to say here.
You have failed me for the last time.
Because huge chunks of this film is really competent, really competently made.
It is.
It's shot pretty good. It's lit fine. Again, within the context of the genre, we're talking about a camp slasher film of the early 80s.
And also within the context of all the absolute dross we've been watching, it's actually And in fact, I'd go so far as to say it's actually a fairly decently made film.
It is. It's fairly decently made, and there's all kinds of good stuff. The script is all right. The characters are all right. Some of the acting and delivery is ropey.
It's a mixed bag. It's a bag of rubbish.
But you have got this wrong. This is okay.
Yeah, you're right. Firstly, it's not a terrible film in the way that we have watched some terrible films. It's actually quite entertaining, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's reasonably entertaining. Like in many films of the era, it's got weird baggy paddy bits that you're thinking could do with moving on a bit now.
Basically.
But it's only an hour and 20 in total, so you're never hanging around too long.
It's more of an interesting curio that I'm glad we watched. It's not absolutely steamingly terrible.
No, and I'm sure you can hear which way this is going. But Jay, do you recommend Sleepaway Camp?
I do recommend it. If you like schlocky early 80s slasher films, this is a pretty good version of it. It's quite a unique version of it. It's definitely worth a watch. It's definitely a cult film that you know has a bit of kudos to it. What about you, Gary?
Yeah, I have to agree. It's cult classic for a reason. It's it's better than most things we review on this program by quite a long way.
It's not saying much, but yes.
It's not saying much. So, Jay, when do you think in 1983 they released this film?
Don't know, this summer?
They released it November 18th. So they don't think it's a Halloween film either.
We don't need that Halloween money. We're going to go post-Halloween, before Christmas, nowhere, no man's land.
Or we're not going to go for that summer vibe of we're watching a summer camp. And,
As we're about to end, I think you should drop in some music by Frankie Vinci, credits tune from this film.
Thank you very much, Jay. Let's all go and listen to the strains of Frank Vinci as we wave away our second season of We Watch Bad Films, and we'll see you very soon. Goodbye, all.
Goodbye, everybody.
When I look into your eyes, it comes as no surprise. You're slipping away. Angie, you're the love of my life. It's so cold at night. I'm begging you to stay.